What's going on, guys? Briar Rabbit here. Today we finally got a chance to play the beta of Destiny 2 on the PlayStation 4, and I thought it would be worth taking a look at the differences in graphical fidelity between what are essentially the three different versions of the game. The game running on the PlayStation 4 Pro in 4K, the game running on the PlayStation 4 Pro in 1080p in boost mode, and finally the game running on a base PlayStation 4. To do this, we're going to be taking a look at all three versions of the console running the same material in-game, whether that's an in-game cutscene like this or actual gameplay. It should be noted that any pre-rendered cutscenes actually run at 1080p no matter what kind of PlayStation or display you're running on them. So if you're watching the initial tower attack where Zavala and Cade 6 are talking and Ikora Ray is talking, that runs at 1080p on every system. So it doesn't matter if you're running 4K or not. It's only the in-game stuff that we really care about here. You also may notice that the 4K version of all of these scenes looks a little more saturated in this video. That should be mainly disregarded. That's because I had to render this video out at 4K, and because the other two are coming in at 1080p, the 4K just looks more saturated. If you were looking at the 4K versions of these videos on a 1080p screen rendered at 1080p, it would appear to be much better saturated. It's also worth pointing out that all three versions of the console run the game at a solid and locked 30 frames per second. It actually feels phenomenal on any of the consoles. It doesn't matter what resolution or what graphic quality is being displayed on the screen. Each version of the game feels absolutely stunning as far as smoothness, especially considering it's a 30 frames per second game. I don't know how they made the game feel smoother than Destiny 1, but it does. It absolutely feels great, even though it's running at 30 frames per second. That was a big point of contention in the community when we found out that it was running at 30 frames per second, not at 60. But considering it is 30 frames per second, it absolutely runs wonderfully on all three versions. With that being said, if you do have a PlayStation 4 Pro and a 4K television or monitor, the game looks absolutely stunning in 4K. And for me, it's really the first time that I've had a experience on the PlayStation 4 Pro that's really wowed me. I've played 4K games before. Destiny looks a step above those other games that I've played. It's crystal clear. It runs at a beautifully smooth 30 frames per second. It's just a wonderful experience. Now, what I think is the more interesting question is there a gain to be had by running this game at 1080p on the PlayStation 4 Pro using boost mode? Is there any difference? And if there is a difference, is it significant enough to go and buy a PlayStation 4 Pro and run it on a 1080p monitor or TV? The answer to that question is yes, there is definitely a difference, and I have no idea if it's worth it to you. Value is different for everybody, but there is a difference. Let me demonstrate it with this clip here. This is a clip from the PlayStation 4 Pro using boost mode, and what I want you to look at are the straight edges, like the railing and the stairs and the pipe hanging in the background. Now, if I put a piece of base PlayStation footage on top of it, you're going to see that there is, in fact, a difference. It's a minor difference, but to my eyes, it looks like the base PlayStation 4 may be running at a lower resolution. There seems to be more jagged edges to those straight lines, especially the diagonal ones. Now, I don't know if that's because the PlayStation or the base PlayStation is running at a lower resolution or if it's a graphical effect like anti-aliasing, but there is for sure a difference. And you can see it in motion as well. When I did move from the PlayStation 4 Pro running boost mode to the base PlayStation 4, it was immediately apparent. However, is it worth a $400 upgrade? Probably not. My guess is that the game on the base PlayStation is running at a slightly lower resolution, perhaps 900p instead of 1080. or that there is so much more power on the PlayStation 4 Pro that they're able to run a bunch of extra graphical settings like anti-aliasing, maybe some motion blur. I don't know. I'm not technically proficient enough to know actually what I'm looking at. What I can say is there is a difference. It's not that huge a difference. If you're going to a 4K TV, it's definitely worth going to the PlayStation 4 Pro to play Destiny 2 on a 4K TV because it looks phenomenal. There is a small difference between the game on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro when running at 1080p. It is noticeable, but I don't think it is a gigantic difference, and it affects gameplay zero. The games run at 30 frames per second, locked, solid, very smooth on both consoles. For comparison's sake, here is a shot of Lord Shaxx taken on the PlayStation 4 Pro and the PlayStation 4, both at 1080p. And once again, especially if you look at the top of the helmet, the white part of the helmet, you can really see where that kind of jagginess shows up. But you can see it throughout the gameplay when you compare the two side by side as well. Now, as I said before, it should be noted that I literally unplugged my PlayStation 4 Pro, plugged in my base PlayStation, and played the exact same content literally minutes later. So there was a pretty noticeable difference in my eyes because I had just literally come off the Pro and started with the base PlayStation. Is that a huge difference? If you have a friend that has a Pro and you've got a base PlayStation, are you going to notice a difference if you go over to his house? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I'm not even positive what we're looking at, whether it's an added graphical effect like anti-aliasing or if there's actually a resolution bump for the PS4 Pro. I'm not positive at what we're looking at. Smarter guys than me will have to figure that one out. I would actually like to ask for your help too. If you see any other differences in the three versions of the game for each of the consoles, let me know down in the comments below. I'd really like to know what you guys see, what I missed, because the footage to me looks very, very similar. Obviously, the 4K is outstanding, but both the PlayStation 4 Pro boost mode and the base PlayStation 4 look outstanding and play outstanding. That should be noted too. All of them run at a very silky smooth 30 frames per second. I know that the community remains upset that the game isn't going to run at 60 frames per second, but if my suspicion is correct and the game on the base PlayStation actually had to get down res to get it to 30 frames per second, I think that is really telling about why the game is not at 60 frames per second, because yes, it's not 60 frames per second, but it's the smoothest goddamn 30 frames per second I've ever played. And I think you guys who are playing the beta right now would probably agree with me. So I'm going to let some more footage play out, just kind of back to back of the three different versions of the game. And at the very end, I'll kind of split up some footage so you guys can see them side to side as well. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hit that like button if you like this video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. And don't forget, leave some comments below. Do you guys see any other graphical differences that I missed? I'd really like to know. I'd really like to kind of hear what you guys say so I can do a little more research on it. Thank you guys very much again, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Revolver.